Ladies and ladies and gentlemen, we'll want to get started here in just a couple minutes. She's talking with her right now about that. Yeah, because she needs to know that. She needs to know.
You know, with 5 kids, she's still
Think about this, and the new, I mean, I retired, I did not pick up another book, but I have relatives.
Yeah, exactly right. You bet.
Nobody wants to sit in the front row. They're just afraid of it.
I got my friends in the back. I said, hey, this is not church. Get up here in the front.
I doubt it. What got Jason going on? Have you done Jason going?
Yeah. No, he's supposed to be here now. So we'll see. We'll see.
Hi, I'm fine. How are you? Nice to see you.
Talk to Tony and Diane.
Am I,
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you could please find your seats. We are ready to begin. And I know that we're a couple minutes late, but as you have seen, outside is a little bit difficult to travel around, so I know people will be trickling in as the time goes on, but we are just certainly very, very excited to see you here for the first Legislative Cracker Barrel session for 2024. Thank you so much for attending. So we would ask at this time if you could please stand as we say our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may be seated. I frequently forget to do this, but I'm Rondrell Moore. I will be your moderator for today and for these sessions this year. I'm super excited to be back and to be able to walk us through a very important part of this process. So we just want to go over a couple ground rules that even in disagreement, respectful communication and behavior are required. Yelling, using profanity, and speaking abusively certainly are not allowed. And we've had a tradition of treating each other with the utmost respect, and I know that'll continue. So we would like to start things out by introducing our legislators, and each legislator will be allowed 2 minutes for an opening comment, just to say who they are and some things that they hope to work on this session. And I'm going to go ahead and start on my right, and representing the 46th District, Representative Bob Heaton.
Okay, thank you, Rondrell, and it's good to be here. Good to see a lot of people out today, even though it's truly winter out there. And so this short session, hopefully it's going to end up being short and sweet, but time will tell. But we started this past Monday, and we haven't passed any bills yet. We've, as Representative Path said yesterday in one of our meetings we had, that she's had long meetings already and committee hearings in, I think, education, and looking at a couple bills in there. But so the filing deadline was a couple days ago, so I haven't seen a lot of the bills. Actually, not too many in the Senate, especially. But there are some bills that we're looking at, and we might be able to get into a little bit of them later this morning. But I know there's a lot of passion out there about certain issues that affects us locally, and I appreciate everybody being here today, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Representative Heaton. And very quickly, Robbie, could you just raise your hand up in the front row? This is Robbie. And she is our extraordinary timekeeper. Yes, she deserves a round of applause.
Yay, Robbie.
She is the one that keeps all of us, myself included, in line with the timing, and she's vital to this process. So thank you, Robbie, for doing this. Okay, we're going to go to my left now, representing the 43rd District, Representative Tanya Paff.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out. This is, this, Kroger and Meyer are where I get hit up the most, so it's awesome. I like to hear what you guys are thinking, what you're concerned about. Couple things. Representative Heaton is correct. We will not know all the bills that you ask us about it. So if, just for my purposes, if you come up and ask a specific bill, can you just kind of tell us what it is about? They just dropped Thursday. So if you want to look at all the bills, there's, I think, over 500. Go to Indiana General Assembly website, and you can just go down. Now, just as the teacher in me has to tell you, just because it's a bill filed doesn't mean it's going to be heard. So you can get excited and contact us, and we'll listen to all of your thoughts, but it doesn't mean it's going to be heard in the next 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks of committees left, and then the bills change houses. So on that note, my two bills, just real quick, I'm still fighting for Project Lifesaver. That is in case you have a parent with dementia or a child on the spectrum, they would wear a band, and then if they happen to wander out of our Vigo County area, you could call the sheriffs. They would ping that band and find the person immediately. Only 33 out of 92 counties are covered in Indiana, so I'm still fighting to get coverage all over Indiana. So that's one. And my second one is expanding I-70. It is a non-budget year, so as you can imagine, it will be around $2 billion to expand I-70 from Terre Haute all the way to Richmond. And since it's a non-budget year, I don't expect that to go through, but we need to start having the conversation. As the three of us drive it every day, it is not the safest road. And I believe that that is money that is worth spending. So again, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. And finally, the new legislator on the block, if you will, Senator representing the 38th District, Senator Greg Good.
Thank you. I'm not John Ford. It's great to be here. I'm Greg Good, brand new. Just quickly, a little bit about me. I won the lottery of life by being born in the United States of America. I never let a high-stakes test determine the success of my life. I'm a huge proponent in programs for mental health, social workers, and helping our fellow neighbor. Thing maybe at least amongst this assemblage, the thing I perhaps am most proud of is I was once an employee at the Vigo County Public Library. I worked up in the audio-visual. My son Jackson's in the back of the room. Jackson, once upon a time when, dinosaurs roamed the earth, there were these things called VHS tapes. And I worked in AV, but I did whatever the then director asked me to do, including putting salt out on the ramps or really anything that was needed. This library team, just like it was 20 plus years ago when I worked here, just they're public servants as well, right? They do a great job, and I appreciate Christy and those partners of the library, League of Women Voters, Taxpayers Association, all the partners who put this together. I am learning. I'm just not too long ago found out that I'm on the Public Policy Committee and the Environment Committee. Those committees have not yet met, and I can get into a little bit later about some of the legislation that I'm looking into, and I'm deeply honored to serve as your state senator, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Good. All right, and at this time, Representative Bruce Borders is not here. He may be showing up, and we will see. We know that Representative Alan Morrison will not be attending today. So at this point, we're going to go into our sponsor questions, and we're just asking that you would line up near the back with your question, sponsors. And just as you're lining up, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, because without them, this would not be possible. First and foremost, the Vigo County Public Library, the League of Women Voters of Vigo County, the Vigo County Teachers Association, the Vigo County Taxpayers Association, the Greater Terre Haute branch of the NAACP, and Southern Indiana Area Labor Federation. If we could give them all a round of applause for making this possible. And we're going to ask that each representative of the sponsor introduce who they are with, and ask their question. And we have 1 minute to ask your question, and then each legislator will have about 1.5 minutes to respond. And we want to know not all legislators have to answer all of the questions. So, yes, sir.
Good morning, citizens of Vigo County, and Happy New Year's. I'm Sylvester Edwards, President of the Greater Terre Haute NAACP. For the senators and representative, SB 133, as proposed, undermines supplier diversity and threaten Indiana minority business under the guise of efficiency. The state of Indiana would take over the minority women business development certification, guidelines, and process. Cities like Indianapolis have a 15% goal for the MBE contract, and the state currently have 10%. The bill would consolidate the goal. Race and gender program must be narrowly tailored to a geographic and demographic and procurement needs to survive strict scrutiny. The concern is that the city would potentially lose its certification capabilities, would lead to losing supplier diversity in Indiana. Would you support a position that maintains supply equity and diversity and inclusion programs in the state of Indiana? If not, why not?
Is this, I've not seen this bill, is this just specifically written for Indianapolis or Indiana?
For the whole state, but since that Indianapolis has a larger group of black and minority women and other that would cause a problems there in Indianapolis, since it's 15% for Indianapolis and 10% for the state of Indiana.
Of course, I support women and minorities, so anything we can do. In fact, we need to do more to get more people of both color and women to own businesses and give them as many breaks as we can, because we just need more diversity.
A previous life, I was with Indiana State University and interacted pretty regularly with the diversity arm within the Department of Administration for the state of Indiana that tracked women, minority, veteran-owned businesses, and worked really kind of in a bipartisan way to try to set some goals for the university. And it's an ongoing challenge for organizations, public agencies, and perhaps city governments to hit goals, in part of trying to match whatever the service or the work that's needed with the availability, the pool. And the additional challenge over in Western Indiana, we found, was that there was a higher concentration of women and minority veteran-owned businesses in Central Indiana, that business was so good in Central Indiana, they didn't want to come over to Western Indiana. But like Representative Paff, I want to do everything I can to help spur entrepreneurship and to increase in all of those categories. And I'm a big believer in that. And I think Indiana will be even stronger when we try to help promote entrepreneurship and diversity.
All right. Thank you very much for your question. Representative Borders has entered the building, and so we would like to give him a couple minutes to just introduce yourself to people who may not know you and some things you hope to work on this session.
Sure, I appreciate that. Actually, I've been up since 5 o'clock. We have a livable basement in our house, and the sump pump went out on it, and so that's as opposed to having all sorts of furniture and things floating around. I've been working on a battery backup sump pump, and then we had 2 tenants that called. Their furnaces went out, and been trying to get a hold of the furnace people, the HVAC people, and so I've had a really fun morning, quite frankly, and since about 5 a.m. But nonetheless, having said that, some of the bills that I'm working on, one of them has to do with emerging therapies, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's a surgeon, and he said that basically stem cells, he said, are one of the things that are, he's called that the medical miracle of this generation, and he actually does all sorts of surgery. A friend of mine who had COPD, he was struggling with that, and he ended up, the bottom line is they ended up giving him stem cell injections into the chest area, and he said he's completely over it. And if you do some research on that, it's quite interesting. I've been actually getting stem cell injections in my left hip, where the cartilage between the ball and the bone and the socket are doing fine, but the cartilage in between looks a bit like cauliflower, just from wearing out over years, and so, still hobbling a bit, but we'll see. It's again, I'm not saying that it's going to be the be-all that ends all, but that's one of the bills that I'm very excited about, and another one and then I want to thank Bob Heaton for handing this over. It's basically almost more of a technical bill from the Secretary of State's office, and what it does is it takes one of the positions that normally required a titling, and it's removing that from the language because the functions in that position are done by something else. So, thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Representative Borders. Representative Heaton?
Yeah, thank you. Sylvester, I'll look at Senate Bill 133. I don't know much about it, but I agree with what's been said, but I don't know who the author or why it was filed or what, but I'll take a look at it later. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. If you would like to recap the question very briefly for Representative Borders, if you would like to answer the question, you do not have to.
You mean him or me?
To both, yes. Okay. Just very briefly, just explaining what the bill was and the question that you have for Representative Borders.
Representative Borders, it's SB 113. It has something to do with the state taking over and diversifying, so they would make decisions on women and other minorities supply businesses. You may not have seen it set because it is SB 133. The question was, would you...
So 133 or 113?
133.
133,
And the
okay.
question was, would you support the bill, or would you sustain, or would you go against the bill because it's taken, the state taking over black women and other women, minority supply chain.
When you say, okay, the supply chain, and I apologize, I know you don't like us bantering back and forth with questions, but I'm not quite sure what you mean by the state taking over the supply chain. What do you mean by that, if you don't mind me asking?
Just a moment. Well, why don't we just go ahead and table that as...
Thank you.
Do you want the
All right, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be coy with my
Yeah.
question, I just don't
Yeah.
know what.
If I might just read the bill summary.
Sure,
The
okay.
digest. It requires a unit of local government to accept the State Department of Administration's certification for whether a business qualifies as a minority business enterprise, a women's business enterprise, or a veteran-owned small business, as evidence that that business entity would be eligible to participate in the unit of local government's initiatives and programs that might have those certification requirements on it. So the local units of government would have to take the state's certification of whether or not a business qualified as being a diverse business, minority, or women-owned.
And I'll look into it. I mean, I'm not sure I mean, just to be really frank with you, I know when I was a mayor, I don't remember the state ever intervening and jumping in on. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that right now a local unit of government can use their own determination as to whether or not a business is a women-owned or a minority-owned business. And what this bill potentially is saying is that they could no longer decide that for themselves, that would have to be the So the state's decision, is that what I'm understanding you telling me?
I really don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, no problem. I mean, I'll try to find out more on it, and you and I can chat. So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Not quite at this point. We will have a public question and answer session after the sponsors go through. Go ahead.
I'm Diana Jocelyn with the Southern Indiana Labor Federation, Wabash Valley Chapter. For those of you who don't know, we lost our long-term president, Bill Trish, back in July, and our new president isn't here. My question's brief. Of course, I'm asking about the 13th check for public employees that we used to get regularly and we have not gotten for several years, and we did not get any cost of living increase either, even that paltry 1% that we got one year. Are there any plans to, or any bills introduced to reinstate the 13th check?
This is so exciting, I can give good news for once. We just heard it in Ways and Means this week, and it passed unanimously through the House Ways and Means Committee. We know that, I feel that we've done a disservice to retirees. You know, we tell you you're going to get something, and then the General Assembly takes it away. So last year, the 13th check passed the House, got through the House, and then the Senate never took it up. I've been told the money's there, so we just voted 23-0, yes, it'll go to the floor in the House next week. It'll get passed, and then it's up to the Senate to take it over from there.
Okay, then I would ask our senator for his support on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See, Greg, that's what happens now. You're in the Senate, and then 1 hour you get whapped in the jaw here. So.
I just say, if I could, I've begun studying the issue. I had a meeting with the Senate Appropriations Chair, Senator Ryan Mishler, who's from like the northernmost tip of Indiana, and I raised this issue. So as Representative Paff said, it in all likelihood will come over to the other side, and I appreciate that, and I'm looking into it.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Carolyn Calicott, co-president of the League of Women Voters of Vigo County. And you've somewhat answered this question, but what bills have you introduced or plan to introduce this session, and how do they represent the needs of our community? Deer in headlights?
I guess I'll go ahead and start over here. Well, as I was mentioning, the emerging therapies bill that I've introduced, I can't take credit that I'm, the original author of this idea. Quite frankly, the state of Arkansas passed this bill. Was back in, I can't remember if it was 2017 or 2018, something like that. And what had happened is the governor of Arkansas, from what I understand, had what we would class as emerging therapies or stem cell therapies for some illnesses that he had and had such remarkable recovery with it and a number of doctors I've spoken with on this issue said, that actually they see that as being, a mainstay of the medical community at large as well in the future. But anyhow, he was so satisfied with it, they ended up passing that bill. And what my bill basically does is that any state-funded plans, that it makes it, available for recovery under the insurance costs, so it results in less actually invasive surgeries. And they ended up saving, I think they thought their initial savings was going to be around $190 million. They ended up saving, I believe, over $300 million just in the first year alone. There will be some pushback, obviously, from the medical community at large, just because of the of money that was typically going into surgeries, possibly going into what they call emerging therapies. So we'll see.
Well, Carolyn, I have one bill that I filed, and this doesn't deal with 99.999% of the people. Okay, but it does deal with about 1 a few people down at the federal penitentiary, and especially the prison nurse. And she approached me about filing a bill that deals with indecent exposure, okay, in a federal prison. So, and I won't get into the details, obviously.
Yes.
But anyway, I don't know if it's going to get a hearing, but it's been a concern to some of the people down there at the federal penitentiary. So that's my only bill. I'm co-author of a few other bills, but we'll see where those will go.
And mine are Project Lifesaver and I-70, and I'm co-author on a few education bills.
I approached the session thinking I would not be introducing any legislation, given that it was a short session, but there are three bills after thinking hard about it and some things weighing heavily on my heart. One was carrying forth a bill that Senator Ford did last year. It's more of a technical corrections bill that was requested by the Indiana Arts Commission. I'm a huge believer in the arts and sculpture and how it enhances and uplifts our quality of place, our community. It's inspiring. It puts me in a happy mood. I was and still am, although she's not a resident, a dear friend of Mary Kramer, and I really appreciate organizations like Art Spaces, so I'm doing that. Secondly, I mentioned social work and social workers in my introduction, and we need more mental health professionals, and there's some bottlenecks that are making it difficult to get more licensed clinical social workers out and doing their jobs. And so I've got a piece of legislation that looks at the path toward licensure. And then finally, and this is a longer term endeavor, this could take a decade, but I am going to be steadfast in this. I know I'm approaching the end of my time, but I want to at least mention it, and I want to circle back if we get to health care. And that is, I'm going to be the champion, maybe the only champion, of licensure for naturopathic doctors to gain licensure. Relationship-based medicine that looks not to treat symptoms, but to treat the root cause of unhealthiness. And there's 26 states, starting with the state of Washington, that provides licensure for naturopathic doctors to practice. And I think Indiana needs to be one of them, and I can get into that a little bit later. But I think it will help reduce the cost of health care and enhance the quality of care for patients.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here, especially with the weather and the great turnout. My name is Marie Thies. I have several roles, but this morning is one of the sponsors, Vigo County Teachers Association. I'm the vice president. We do have a new president, Mr. Aaron Warner, who's outstanding, but I tend to live for Crackerbarrel, so I told him I would do this. In my other roles, as a citizen, as a parent, as someone who does county leadership, and I think all of us, no matter if you're an educator, see the needs of our young people that eventually grow up into adults in our community. And one of the things that I am asking is, with education funds being tied to very specific spending and where they need to go, our needs for social work, I appreciate that, social work and counseling are high. The problem is, our shortages for special education, for counselors, for social works are high. I would ask, what would you like to see at the state level to support the needs of our communities and for the future of our communities?
To be honest with you, that's one of those things I would love to sit down and chat with you and find out more about that. I've got a couple of grandsons that are special need children, and just to get your input. I don't want to pretend that I know as much as what I'll need to know in the long haul, but you can teach me if you don't mind. And but I will say that I have one grandson who has autism, and He's in a special school that he's, making a lot of progress. And then another grandson who is dyslexic, and he's making a lot of strides and so forth. But I can't imagine what their lives would be like without some of the special teaching that they're receiving. So I want to talk with you more about it, find out more about it, and get into some details. So, all right, thanks.
Go ahead.
Senator Good?
I'm glad I went through junior high and high school once in life. I don't know about you all.
I liked it so much I did it twice.
But I am also thankful that when I was 11, 12, 13, these weren't around. These are wonderful devices to provide information and learn about the world, learn about other people and others, but heaps a whole lot of pressure. And I do believe that one of the factors that is causing this mental health crisis of people of all ages are this constant bombardment of information and images and just stuff through social media. In my heart of hearts, there's no legislative or policy or even funding substitute for parents to be involved in the lives of their children. But that said, not every child is blessed with that type of involvement. And so what are some other ways that we can be helpful? And I'm very mindful that teachers are also having to be social workers. Teachers are having to do almost parental responsibilities. Teachers have to make sure that the kiddos have gotten a meal. So I'm always going to be focused on making sure that we try to make every dollar count and to go as far as possible to do those additional services for our children in schools.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, thanks, Marie. Good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
Last year, I think was it Senate Bill 1 or 4 or whatever it was, that the legislators voted to allow the locals to opt in, whether they want to be a part of to receive the money from the state. And I don't know, I want to say $100 million that there was. And I want to say 86 counties opt in to accept that. And there was a press release and a meeting here earlier this summer, I think Representative Path and I were at. But anyway, what it boils down to, it takes money, and it takes big money. Got a phone call 2 nights ago from my buddy in Granger, Indiana, in St. Joe County, and he indicated to me that Notre Dame just announced that they are contributing $165 million to build a hospital in South Bend for mental health patients, 150 beds. Okay, so bottom line, people, it takes millions. It takes a lot of money. All right, and everybody's out there looking for it. And so whether it's the federal government, the state government, we need the money to invest in our communities and so forth. But kind of what Senator Good was talking about, years ago we didn't deal with these iPhones, i12s, and in Bruce's case, his flip phone. But anyway, it's something where I know a lot of young kids get on it and social media and so forth, and that affects them long term, and then we're seeing that. And it's I don't know what the answer is really when it gets into that. So it's very complicated, and but I appreciate the conversation we're having.
I use a flip phone to protect my mental health.
So I'm just going to go ahead and go. Two basic things. Start funding unfunded mandates.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot of discussion this. I'm sorry, the flip phone. This session about third grade and retaining third graders who don't pass iRead. That's all well and good, and someone may ask a question about that later. but you can't just do that and not fund tutoring, give us resources, give us money for summer school. So stop, putting things on the school corporations and saying, you guys figure it out and we're not going to give you enough money. And then the other thing is I would personally like to see counselors be a line item in the state budget. Counselors, thank you. Counselors have been literally dumped on for years and are being asked to do more and more, and they just simply can't. I believe, and Marie, you would know better, I believe one counselor at North is responsible for around 400 students. And so the education and counseling 400 kids, it's a bit much when you think of all the mental health issues, perhaps going into the labor industry after high school or going to college, or really just there's so many decisions for a 16, 17-year-old to make that when you're a counselor and you get to see them for 2 minutes in the entire school year, I don't think that's a very good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'm the last of the sponsor comments. I'm Christy Howe. I'm the director here at the Vigo County Public Library. I want to take just a moment, first of all, to say thank you to all the legislators for coming, but also to all of you for coming. We have citizens, local elected officials, a variety of different folks out today. And this type of engagement is essential to our democracy. And this particular event matters so much because you don't have to be a member of a club to attend or buy a meal ticket to an event to attend. Literally anyone is welcome at the library. So thank you all for coming, legislators and public, to make this possible. Second, we're about to move to public comment. And in an effort to allow us to continue to live stream to those who might be watching at home or watching later, I am going to ask that anyone lining up for public comment do so on this side of the room here. And there'll be chairs over there that you can sit in. And if you're on this side, feel free to go out into the hallway and walk around if it's tight here by me and the camera, okay? And then lastly, I just want to mention to our legislators that rather than discuss bills here, I'm going to be bringing a team of library staff to the State House on the 23rd. We look forward to engaging with you there. We'll talk about legislation, but also about what's happening in modern libraries and the ways that we're serving our constituents. Our technology team will be there demonstrating some tech, so I hope you'll have time to come out and play, as well as learn about libraries. So we'll see you in Indianapolis on the 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy, and thank you to all of our sponsors for your questions. As she just mentioned, hold on one second, the public line is now officially open, and we're going to ask that you line up on that side. Let's go over some ground rules before we do these things. As always, please, in a disagreement, respectful communication. We will not be having many back and forth conversations. This is not a debate, so if you ask a question and you get a response that maybe you don't necessarily agree with, be free to have that conversation after the public question. We want to get through as many as we can. Also, I believe on that projecting screen right there, they will be putting up the emails of the legislators that are here today. So if you don't get your question asked today or even after the private session, feel free to email all of these men and women. They would be glad to answer your questions. All right, you have 1 minute to ask your question. Please say who you are, ask your question, and again, legislators, you have 1.5 minutes. Depending on how much time we have, I will be more strict on our time constraints. I'm trying to be kind of gracious because we don't have as many people today, but I have no problem saying, all right, that's enough, because, yeah.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, sorry.
Okay, I got to make this real quick because I got to be at home and center at 11. My name is David Cooley, and last year I came before you to ask you for comprehensive gun reform. I told you that most of my nieces are teachers, and most of my nieces are teachers, and my own daughter is a teacher. I have a niece that teaches in elementary school in Clay County, one that teaches high school in Maryland, another that teaches special education in Florida, and my daughter teaches English at a university in Wisconsin. I told you then how I feared for their safety. My daughter teaches on the Ojibwe Indian Reservation. The Ojibwe are more commonly known as Chippewa. As you enter the reservation, to the left and down the hill, there's a K through 12 school. And then to the right and over the hill is where you find the university. On September 27th at 3:30, I received a text from my daughter. School shooting at the K through 12 school. We're on lockdown. I don't think I'm in danger, but in the meantime, I love you. Oh no, I love you at 3:58. Just heard he was apprehended. What happened? I guess there was a shooting outside the K through 12 school, but not involving the school. We still have to lock down just in case. One shooter? Yeah, I don't know, but there's an announcement saying we're still on lockdown. At 4:50, we're okay, lockdown lifted. Thank God. It seems that every time we turn on the news, we are confronted with another tragedy, another community mourning the loss of innocent lives. And too often in the wake of these tragedies, we hear the same tired refrain, thoughts and prayers. Politicians offer their condolences, promising to keep the victims and their families in their thoughts and prayers, and yet nothing changes. The cycle of gun violence continues, and we find ourselves back in this same place again and again. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know my nieces and my daughter deserve action. I'm asking you to take action and save the lives of those we love. That's it. Now I got to go to Holman Center.
Would any of the legislators like to respond? Was there, so you want action on guns?
Yes, that's the question. Please do something. I don't know what, but something needs to be done. This has gone on for way too long, and, we can't let this happen again.
So at the very least, I'm very pro safe storage. I think if there's a weapon in your home of a minor, you should have to put it locked up behind a key. So and I believe there might be a bill on that this year, so obviously I would support that. And also, I don't think anyone needs assault weapons. I was in the military myself. I shot M16s, and I don't see any reason for a non-police person, but a citizen to have a machine gun. I've talked to many, many people over the years about this, and they said it because it's fun. That is not an excuse, so that's where I stand.
Okay, there's a basketball game I got to get to.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, please refrain from public comment unless you would like to get in line. Go ahead.
Good morning. Well, thank you for coming. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sarah Dillon. I'm the coordinator of the Vigo County Green Party. I'll keep mine relatively brief. With the concept of regenerative agriculture and being in an earthquake-prone area of the country, why is there still support for Wabash Valley resources? And would you support Senate Bill 131?
Thank you.
I'm actually not sure what Senate Bill 131 is.
It's a carbon sequestration bill.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Carbon dioxide in the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
High pressure storage.
Okay. I mean, I haven't seen it yet. I'm not trying to be, facetious. I just haven't seen it yet, so I don't know exactly what it does.
I'm happy to look into it. I also have not looked at the bill, so I appreciate you flagging it, and we'll take a look at it.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm John Garner. I just come to see everyone, but I've got some questions. Revisiting
Sir,
the
you may ask-
minority.
Sir, real quick, you may ask one question. This time around, if we have time, you can come through and ask a separate
One question? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Revisiting the minority things about women, veterans, and people of minorities, and looking at local versus state. I mean, we're undergoing a transformance here in Vigo County. We're putting a casino in, we're opening restaurants, doing all kinds of things. And is it possible for all three to be qualified for by a person? Can you be a veteran who is a woman, who is a minority, and do you have to be just one, or can you be all three, or what is it? What's the difference between those bills? And the Republicans generally are a party that comes from less regulation, and here we are regulating something from the state that we're not even in the city, and we just flipped the government from Republican to Democrat. We don't want to do that to the state. So, we need a little bit of help here. We've got a minority government. We've got a minority man who's a mayor now, and he is a ranger. He's an officer in the Rangers. He's a mayor now. He's campaigned for a whole year to flip this mayor for him. And we've got our first female black city councilman here in town. And we need to have a little help here with these things, you know? So we don't really need regulated by Indianapolis. What can you do to help?
I'm not sure exactly your question as far as how you want us to answer. You can be all three, by the way. You can be a woman, minority, and a veteran at the same time. But just so you know, that doesn't mean you triple dip into the funds.
No, it doesn't. But what I'm saying is, why try to restrict it so much?
Gotcha.
Why even make such a bill? I think that the government here in Terre Haute is perfectly responsible for doing these things. I mean, they're not going to spend any more money than what they can get. Why does Indianapolis have to worry about it?
I might mention, I mean, I think this was that Senate Bill 133 we discussed earlier. And I'm not sure that it's even received a hearing commitment in a committee, quite frankly. I mean, I don't know. But we'll have to see. But I mean, it's the bottom line is that right now, I would say out of all the bills that are getting introduced, probably 1% of them may get a. I mean, I'm not sure. I shouldn't have thrown out 1%, but it'll be a very small amount of them that will even get a hearing, especially in a short session. So, not trying to be coy, but I don't even know if that bill has been assigned. I mean, it would be assigned to a committee, but I don't know that it's even been set up to receive a hearing.
Well, I promise not to ask any more about what people hunt squirrels with, but
Okay.
that's another. That's another thing.
Sir.
Because what I really came here for was the bill that was passed to take.
Excuse me. Yes, we're asking that you have one question, and if we have time, we'll have another question, and then
It's not a question; it's a statement.
it was. So if you could go ahead and go back to your seat at this time, if we have more time, we'll have you go back in
Can we
line.
go around getting the line again?
If we have time, that is correct, yes, sir. And then, as always, and this is for everyone, once the session is over, then you can meet and talk with them individually. But we got a lot of people we got to get through.
Rondrell, can I was just
Yes, sir.
pulling up the bill and looking at it. I think the idea behind the authors, Senator Liz Brown and Senator Brian Buchanan, is that if you are a business owner, woman-owned business, a minority-owned business, a veteran-owned business, you've got to go through a certification process that ensures the integrity, that there's not somebody trying to game a system or trying to commit some fraud. And I believe, I'm going to speak with them, but I believe that would be the intent. Anybody could try to reach out to maybe a university or a local government and just claim something, but the certification is the mechanism by which a mayor or an agency head or a public university could have the verification. And it appears to me that the intent of the legislation is just to ensure that there's not fraud taking place.
All right. All right, next question.
All right, thank you. I'll try to be brief and clear. House Bill 1291 is to replace the term gender with the term biological sex in all Indiana documents, laws, and statutes. Since there are hundreds of thousands of legal and sociological terms in Indiana laws and statutes, why pick on that specific term to redefine, and you might say clarity, but clarity for what purpose?
What House bill was that again?
I have no idea.
House Bill 1291.
Your question one more time.
House Bill 1291 will replace the term gender with the term biological sex in all Indiana laws and statutes. Since there are so many words in our laws and statutes, why go after that one term?
Well, what I'll just tell you is that, again, not trying to use the short session as an excuse, but I can tell you that in discussions that we have, with leadership and so forth, that's not on the hierarchy of bills to be heard or to be dealt with. I'll be surprised if it, gets moved down the path at all. I mean, I'm just not aware of, it's not been brought up as a priority by anybody, so.
Good, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Representative Eden, did you have anything?
No, I was just going to say, what's your name?
Deb Herndon.
Deb? Okay.
Thank you very much.
I'm Susan Edmondson. There are a number of things I was going to say, but let me just say this. Marijuana. Let me be clear, I do not use marijuana, and I would not use my 13th check if I ever get another one to buy marijuana. However, there are people who do use it. Every state around us has legalized it. Why not just legalize it? This has been going on since I was in high school, and that was over 50 years ago. It's time to just legalize marijuana, not anything else, just marijuana, and let people do what they do. I hope they don't smoke it around me. I can't stand the smoke. I think it smells like a skunk. Do any of you have opinions on what we would do with marijuana in Indiana?
I'll jump right in there. The front page of the Wall Street Journal a couple of days ago, I think it was on Thursday, that a growing number of scientific research by some of the most esteemed scholars are very, very concerned over the linkage of marijuana use and teen psychological problems, psychosis. I mean, serious, serious stuff. And I may or may not be popular here. I'm open to hearing from medical providers and public health experts on possible medicinal uses from prescriptions. But I will never support recreational marijuana use. And I truly believe that the enemies of the United States of America would love for the state of Indiana to make it possible for our citizens to be high, asleep at the wheel. And I think it's just something that I could never support on a recreational basis.
I second that. About 10 years ago, I told the people in Bloomington, Indiana, that I was open to medical marijuana, and I am, still am, because I've got a buddy out in Colorado who's had 21 surgeries on his feet, and he's hooked on pain meds. And he told me one time, and I went to a dispensary with him several years ago, and as we're going to, at that time it was just in the city limits of Denver that you can have these dispensaries. And we went into one, and basically he said, well, $40 will give me about 8 days relief if he's able to take the medical marijuana. So, and since that point, I'm always open to that discussion, because we all deal with pain and so forth, and I try to avoid the extra strength Tylenol as much as I can, but it's something where I don't know where we're at with that. The problem I heard someone said, and it happened to be over in the Senate a few years ago, that, Bob, if we go to medical marijuana, then within 2 years we'll go to recreational marijuana. Well, I don't know if that would be the case, but in some cases that has happened throughout the states, around us especially. But But I am open to that discussion, but recreational marijuana, I'm not interested in that discussion. Years ago, we used to call it dope, you smoke dope, no. And then it became marijuana, and then it's cannabis. Cannabis sounds so nice and wow. But I'm not interested in it. But if you want to talk to me anytime you want, I would love to talk to you about that and get your thoughts on that in more details. But and I talk to people in Colorado about it, and they talk about that extra revenue that comes into the state. Well, they say a lot of times that extra revenue is going towards rehab and other things for these young kids and so forth. And then we get it into gummies. And, these little 5-year-olds, taking a gummy, and guess what? They get very sick and high and so it can be a problem. It's not easy, and I've had people in my district says, Bob, we need to do something about that. And so I hear it quite often, but I appreciate your thoughts on that.
I've got some notes here I was pulling up that I served on the summer study committee or the interim study committee on whether or not to legalize marijuana, whether it be on a recreational or medicinal basis. And some of the things that, that I found out in the research is that in Colorado, marijuana, it says, is now the #1 illicit substance found in Colorado suicides amongst children ages 10 to 19 years old. THC was present in 18% of all youth suicide toxicology reports from 2000 through 2014 through 2016 in Colorado. Also, in the first year after legalization in marijuana, marijuana impaired drivers increased 50% in the state of Washington. The state at that time led the nation in stoned drivers, with 27% of their fatal accidents being caused by drivers using marijuana, and can go on and on and on with the list. But the bottom line was, I did a ton of research on the marijuana issue, and I was really amazed at the things that aren't being brought out. And what did amaze me was that the people that were really pushing for marijuana, they looked like, I'll just put it, they were very much suits and tie people, because what they want to do is their goal, I at least felt like in many cases, was to shut down the local dealer and take over with their own basically marijuana farms. Seriously.
I'm of a different opinion, so I very much support medicinal as soon as possible, especially for our veterans and people that have cancer, instead of getting hooked on opioids. Very much 100% vote yes tomorrow on medicinal. Recreational is one of those things that, like my fellow legislator said, I think that's a little more pause for concern due to a lot of factors that everyone's gone over. Also, if you look at the economic impact, we always talk about money. If you go over to Illinois, a lot of the cars over the border are Indiana license plates. And we seem to be an island now, and we're the only ones left without it. And just my last final thought, let the people decide. So I've been over there for 5 years, and every one of my surveys, granted, I think I'm more in a Democratic district, but every one of my surveys, overwhelmingly, 70% and higher want medicinal. So I know that is against our Constitution. We would have to change the Constitution to let the people decide, but that's what I would prefer.
Thank you very much. And just kind of a good of the order, we've been kind of moving at a leisurely pace in terms of time, which is great. We have about 20 minutes left before we go into closing statements, so let's start walking with a purpose when we start asking our questions. Both up here and up here as well, legislators, please. All right, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Susan Strokas.
Come up a little bit closer, yeah, go ahead. And go ahead and ask your question.
I'm new at this, I'm sorry, and I will try to hurry as much as I can.
Take your time.
Okay, my name is Susan Strokas. I live in New Goshen, just north of New Goshen. I own a family farm out there. It's been in my family for 200 years. I'm 6th generation. I'm a woman farmer because I inherited my farm from my father. I'm sorry. So he gave it to me to be the steward of our land because it was so important to him. We have struggled year after year to keep it going because it's very, very small. My husband works a job in Terre Haute, so I know that economics are important too. Wabash Valley Resources has came out to our place. They want to put the injection well about 2 miles from me. I will be under the plume. Fayette Elementary is only 0.3 miles from my farm. They are in jeopardy. I just heard the words, women, minorities, I'm a woman. I was not going to use that, but I heard that. I also heard the words, Ford put forth a bill that you were going to make some corrections to. There's been some bills placed forth that have impacted us. We have no say-so in it. I'm looking for any help I can get. I just want to know there was a bill that was passed, but evidently parts were taken out. One of it mentioned a study to be done. When it passed, that little piece was not in there. I think a study needs to be done. This is more about money than anything, and I think we should have a say-so in it. And I'm sorry for getting emotional. And I'm not pointing the finger at any of you because I think I have done a lot of research. I knew nothing about any of this. I think we were misled on some issues. I think people may not have a full understanding. I think it's important if you then understand it, you agree with it, I can respect that. But a lot of misleading statements were made. One side of a story was told. We need to have both sides of a story. You guys do too and I know you guys got a lot on your plates and things get passed through. I understand that. I blame myself for not keeping a close eye on what's going on in government, but I'm busy with grandkids. I help in the community. I'm doing my best, but I blame myself. I blame myself. I have spoken with the company because they called me in. They said they were going to have a meeting for farmers. I went because at that time we were going through COVID and hydrous ammonia was outrageous. So I was concerned about it. I want what's best for our community. When I went there to meet with the farmers and to try to be good neighbors and build a partnership with this company, that is not what happened. I walked into a conference room bigger than this. There were 3 men there. There were no other farmers. I asked them what this was about. They said they wanted to talk to me about hydrogen. I was confused. I'm sorry. So anyway, I seen a map. I asked them what was going on. I am a strong person, and I'm normally not emotional. I'm not a crier. But this has caught me so off guard. Anyway, I told them, they wanted me to sign a piece of paper, is what it was. I told them they did not understand us. They do not know us. We are of good faith. We do things in good faith, and that was misleading. I walked down the stairs, and I seen a guy that I know, because he's a farmer. He's a young farmer. He just took over. His parents passed away too. So he's in charge. He's asked me, what are you doing here? And he said, are you coming to the meeting? And I said, there is no meeting. There is no meeting. They are trying to single us out. They have since apologized to me, because I do want to be honest. They have since apologized. I seen it on a video because I got emotional and I left. He said he was sorry that they did that. He said he thought it would be better to talk one-on-one. I asked him, why didn't you call me then and tell me that? They wanted me to sign a piece of paper. I didn't know what the paper was about. Since all of this, I have found out what it's all about. I just need you guys to understand. I'm not here to force you to take my side. Just understand and do some research, because this doesn't affect just our community. Research has shown that if it gets into the aquifer, entire Indiana, Illinois, they get their water from us. This is concerning. And when I talk to that company, they never want to answer those questions. They say it's safe, it's proven technology, but the EPA website even shows the risk. There are risks and benefits to everything. I don't know what's the best thing for Indiana overall, but I know Fayette Elementary is so close to that injection. There are going to be pipelines, high-pressure pipelines with supercritical CO2 running through them. Our buses go through there. This is not about me. It's about my grandkids. They go there. And their kids go there. I'm sorry. But if you put forth a correction in one bill, can you do it in another? They keep telling me the bills are done, they're done. But that one was supposed to have a study. It was taken out, and then the bill was passed, so we get no study. We get no say-so. I don't know. I'm not political. There's too many bills. I've read them. There's so many numbers. There's so many amendments. All I know is what I know now, that we have no say-so because they took it away from Vigo County, from Million County. I want to say so.
Can we get your name real quick? Oh, you had, okay, all right.
And I will say this too, I know that was a lot of time, but I know that the carbon sequestration is a massive topic and there needs to be some background to it. So we appreciate you sharing your story. We appreciate you sharing and taking your time and just kind of giving some background, because I know a lot of the legislators and people may not know exactly what's going into it. So I hope you're able to kind of hear some, and if you want to respond to that, we want you to take your time to do that. But no, do not apologize. We appreciate you sharing your story with us. Anyone?
Well, I mean, I guess I'll just comment from one human being to another. I'm really sorry that from what the sounds of it is that you were set up and, brought into a meeting that you thought there would be a lot of other people. I mean, that's not a good way of starting any type of adventure or business. And I'm just, I'm sorry that happened to you, but I do want to talk to you more about that and find out why in the world they would do something like that. That doesn't, I mean, even if they believe in what they're doing.
Exactly.
It's
fertilizer.
It's not right to do that, so.
I'm so sorry.
No,
this is a very huge topic. I've been voting on this for 5 years. In full transparency, I started voting on it when I thought it was going to be under my house. So at the time of the very first vote, I live in College Park. It was going to be under my house, and I'm okay with the technology. It's probably not what you want to hear, but
No,
I'm
fine.
okay with the science. I'm okay with the technology. We, as the General Assembly, he wasn't there.
Right.
We allowed the permit to take place. So we allowed the process of carbon sequestration, it's a hard word for me, to happen in Indiana. So currently there are now 6 projects in the works. It is in other states, it is in other countries. So as far as the science goes and the technology, I'm okay. However, saying all that, if this project does go through, it has to be as safe as possible. I know the EPA has done, they have a lot of guardrails set in place that this company or whatever company decides to do this has to go through. So I can say, at least from my perspective, I will be watching going forward to make sure that this company is held accountable to keep it as safe as possible for you.
Thank you.
Well, Susan, we can talk at another time, but I've known you for almost 39 and a half years.
I haven't seen you for 30 years. Yeah.
20-some years. But anyway, it's good to see you, but under these circumstances, I'm sorry. But we need to talk about it at another time, very soon. I talked to Tony and Diane back here, and what was presented to me a while back was in the state of Indiana, there's 18,400 and some injection wells already.
Not those types, but yes.
Not those types.
There's only 2 in the United States, but that's okay.
Okay. Well, see, this is what was shared with me, and I think maybe
Exactly.
others and so forth. But that's something. What? Yeah. So anyway, we'll be talking about this in the
Thank you.
short time to come.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
question. Thank you for sharing your story. All right.
Hello. I'm Carolyn Calicott, citizen. Okay. In December, Governor Holcomb announced immediate action regarding a water supply study related to the LEAP Innovative District in Boone County. The Indiana Economic Development Corporation has proposed diverting up to 100 million gallons a day from an aquifer along the Wabash River. There is concern about the impact to cities and towns along the Wabash. Although water supply may be sufficient at this time, if we have a drought like we did in 2012, 25% of marine life will be endangered. Residents along there with shallow wells can go dry. Are you in favor of Indiana enacting stronger laws to protect our waterways and water supplies? And are you in favor of an independent Indiana Office of Water and having independent water studies?
So I've been following that issue for the last year in my day job as state director for Senator Todd Young. And I'm very cognizant that the issue not only deals with water, but as a state agency buying up land. Right. And this past week, I don't think it's been published yet on the website, but I've joined Senator Chris Garton, the Senate Majority Leader, to co-author legislation that would assert the General Assembly more in the lives of our state agencies and increasing, making it law that anything that would be $1 million or more in implementation must get the General Assembly's approval. And with regard to the water, as soon as I heard that an additional water study was going to commence outside of the IEDC, I was looking at the counties impacted, and it included Vermilion County, but it didn't include Vigo. And so I immediately called the governor's office. I said, I want Vigo County to be included, and I don't want to put our fellow legislators on the spot, but we all talked about it. And so Vigo County is included in the independent water study, and I'm going to be all over this.
Okay.
And the last thing I'll just quickly say, we in Indiana, I think, are beginning to enter what in places like the Middle East have been dealing with since biblical times. And Western states have been dealing for the last 150 years, and that has to do with water.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be a lot more comprehensive. We need to make sure that we have the input from citizens and from all sectors and industries, local officials, cannot stress that enough, local officials' input, and then the scientific recommendations, but I'm going to be following it very, very closely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Senator Good.
Go ahead.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Carolyn,
Carolyn,
no problem.
before Senator Good, when he was Greg Good, he and I had that conversation several months ago. And the thing about I'd say that IEDC and I like Dave Rosenberg, and we've had several meetings last year in the long session about another issue in Clay County. But you know, they're putting it on pause, I think, and going to do a study and whatnot. But when it comes to transparency, that's been my negative with them for a long time, and with a lot of other people. So when they come to us in the Ways and Means Committee and says, hey, we want $500 million to do this or this, you know, sometimes it's wonder if we get the whole story about this. And, you know, there was some study talk about, well, it's just going to be south of Tippecanoe County and it's just going to be north of here and that. But at first, you know, they didn't know where. And so I think at this point they are looking at looking into it more, and we're pressuring them to do so.
I'm glad to hear that you called the governor's office. I too contacted them and asked for Vigo to be on the list, and so we are, which is good. So water is the currency of the future. You know, if you look at Arizona, they're having trouble right now, and they're trying to figure out how to get water there. Right now, we don't have any water legislation protecting our water in Indiana. So anyone can kind of go along the Wabash River and start pumping it wherever they want.
That's true.
So I'm very much in favor of getting some water legislation going. I haven't seen all the bills, so we've had a lot of talks about this, and we need to do something before it's too late, because it is going to affect us here.
One of the things I'll mention is, as a former mayor, we used to get all of our water for the city of Jasonville. In fact, they still do, from basically over in the Eel River Basin. And I know occasionally we would have a, you know, this is what you're talking about is of a much larger magnitude, but nonetheless, we would, you know, occasionally a well would fail over time where sand got sucked into the filters and caused it literally to collapse upon itself, and then we'd have to dig a new well, and, you know, and of course that's not cheap to do. And I know obviously I believe over Lebanon is where the end result is where the water is heading to, and I think when this started coming down the pike, I don't believe anybody thought about you know, basically, you know, in a heavy drought year, which we had this year. I mean, there were times, in fact, I was actually out swimming in the Wabash River over by down near Miram, and there were spots you could literally almost walk across it. And so, yeah, I think it drew a lot more attention, just the drought year that we had this year. And so, you know, again, I think everybody's more on board with the issue in terms of catching up with it now than they were. I don't know what the end result will be, but quite frankly, you know, thank you for being one of many who I actually have had a lot of calls on this issue, you know, and actually even from constituents from down around Vincennes, because ultimately what's taken up from there will impact down the river as well. So, thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so. Yes.
So we're technically supposed to be out of time, but we've got about 35 minutes worth of questions left. I think if we give it another 15 minutes and you guys all agree to be concise, if you don't have anything special to add, feel free to pass. That's okay. I want to try and get in as many questions as we can. So are we all okay to try and do that, rapid fire here?
I love it when Christy reads my mind. I was going to say the exact same thing. So we have these questions. We want to get through as many as possible. Maybe we can cut time. Hold on one second. Maybe we can cut time from their closing statements too. That'll add some more time too. So please, concisely ask your question. Answer. Not everybody has to answer all the questions.
If we're going to do this, though, I'm going to pause from. Go ahead. I'm going to grab a donut, and I'll be right back.
All right. If you would like to ask your question.
Hi, my name is Whitney Boyce, and I'm a teacher here in Vigo County. I teach research writing, and my children go to Fayette Elementary. I understand that the technology has been proven in some ways for carbon sequestration. However, there's a lot of research nationally and internationally that still shows that there is great potential for a very, very massive disaster. So I'm very concerned about that. My question is that the laws that the Wabash Valley Resources say they have passed take all the control from our local government for this project. Since the PHMSA guidelines have not been written, the supercritical CO2 can be placed anywhere and we have no option. I'm very concerned about that. Congressmen and women have voiced the same concerns and have written a letter and put it on the desk of the president. Are you willing to join with them and voice your concerns and ask for a memorandum until we at least get some kind of guidelines for this big issue?
I would have to see the memorandum, but I definitely will look at it, yes, and talk to you about it.
All right. Thank you very much. Next question.
My name's Kathy Brock, and this is about the carbon capture again. And Vigo and Vermilion County is about to become the biggest toxic waste dump in the state of Indiana. We have no choice. It's under our homes where our kids go to school. I disagree with Ms. Pfaff, I'm sorry, but I disagree with your science on that. This is a Class 6 well. It's not a well, like a well where water goes down into the well and it's contained and it stays there. This is a plume that's going to go forced under the ground with tremendous pressure, and it's going to just go everywhere. If it comes back out of the ground, we die. Our kids die. I'm old. I don't care, but I care about our children. I care about our grandchildren. I care about Susan's farm. I care about Bill Wilson's farm and all the people that lives in this community. I think you guys should step up for us. We vote for you. You should be behind us.
Good.
Just speed things along so everybody has a chance to talk. You voted in a COPA. A lot of states have had them. There's at least 4 or 5 that's recalled them. Union Hospital is trying to buy Regional Hospital. Union Hospital is a non-for-profit. If they buy Regional, it'll become non-for-profit. Regional is one of the top 4 taxpayers in Vigo County. Are you opposed or for the merger? And I'll give you each a form so we can get to the next person, if just for or against.
Has that already gone through?
We allowed it to go.
But I mean, from the legislative.
You all have to approve it.
I believe it's right now with Channel 10, they're doing a survey, or maybe Caitlin Hunts gave a link to public input.
I do not know everything about that one, so I don't want to necessarily speak about that.
What we did in the General Assembly last year, was it last year or the year before? That to allow Union Hospital and Terre Haute Regional Hospital, HCA, to discuss whether they're going to sell or buy or whatever the case may be. And by passing that bill that we did, I don't recall the bill number, but it was allowing less federal government red tape, okay, for this to happen or not happen and so forth. So that's all we did. My daughter works at Terre Haute Regional Hospital. So she texted me 3 or 4 days ago and said, "Oh, Dad, what's the state of Indiana going to do about this?" and blah, blah, blah. And I said, "Honey," we basically passed a bill that just said, hey, they can come together and they can talk. And we're out of it, okay? So if people think that we're going to pass a bill that says, okay, HCA, you can't sell to Union Hospital, okay? And they're out of Nashville. Is it Nashville, Tennessee? I think they are. So what we did was to allow less government red tape. That's all we did, okay? So.
I drop these off with you, or you just could look at them later?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
It's Bill Wilson.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
I'm the one that has a farm over here too, and they say they're gonna dump on my property where I got my mineral rights. Well, I'll tell you right now, it's not gonna happen. People in Terre Haute are just now getting familiar with this CO2, and I don't know how this got started. Well, I do. President Daniels, Hogan has put a lot of money to start this. People of Minneapolis, it's got to be stopped. Another thing, whiskey is worse than marijuana. Thank you.
Doug Bohannon, Universal. There's going to be an injection dump. Everybody wants to call it a well, just like they would want to take marijuana and call it cannabis because it sounds better. So a well sounds better and it's a dump. Just like this lady said, Senate Bill 131, what it amounts to is this a bill to pass so that Wabash Valley Resources cannot bring the CO2 into Vermilion County unless Vermilion County local legislature allowed them to do it from Vigo County. That's what the synopsis reads. carbon sequestration provides that a carbon sequestration project that stores carbon dioxide generated outside a county and transported to the carbon sequestration project located in another county may not be undertaken unless the project is approved by the appropriate county legislative body or plan commission. So would you support that bill so that Vermillion County could reject this stuff being transported to Vermillion County? And what would happen is they wouldn't even be able to run this plant because they wouldn't have enough capacity in Vigo County. They need both of these dumps. So that's my thing.
One of the things I'm going to mention, and again, it's going to, we've got to dig into it very quickly, I guess you might say, on this issue, but carbon is a natural forming substance, and I'm not quite sure of, again, I don't want to pretend that I'm an expert on this issue because I'm most certainly not. I'm going to try to get up to speed very, very quickly on many aspects of it, but the bottom line is that carbon sequestration is taking place throughout the United States, as Tanya has mentioned. It's not new technology. The bottom line is I'm not sure at what point, everybody keeps referring to it as a toxic dump. Well, carbon is not a toxic product. I mean, it simply isn't. So what is it? Is it something that's part of the injection process that's toxic? Because carbon itself is not a, right, but I mean, well, I mean, you're saying that it's going to kill you, and I'm not sure from past.
This place is oxygen.
So for the purposes of time, and this is a very important conversation, potentially we could have this when we have the one-on-one session.
Okay.
And I would definitely encourage that. But I know we would, but we don't have the time for it. So go ahead, sir, if you could go on with the next one. You can have that conversation with the...
My name's Ted Ziegler. I'm from West Terre Haute, Indiana. I have a question about, after that June 29th storm we had last year, I found myself in an $800 insurance case on house insurance. And I've heard that there's about 11 states in the country that base their insurance score on credit rating. So I was just wondering if our state, I worked with the Department of Insurance for a long time this summer, but didn't get no help out of that. And it finally was a hardship letter that put it all back to normal, thankfully. My insurance agent said that typically consumers would get about a 15 to 17% raise across the state because of that storm. But I was just wondering, I'd never heard of, it was funny, it took months to figure out that was something to do with a neutral insurance score. They said I lost it, I don't even know I had it, But then there's, what I was interested in, if our state has legislated that we cannot base our credit amount based on the credit rating, or a person's credit rating.
Actually, I know a lot about that issue. In fact, Craig Fry, who was a former state representative, when he was chairman of the insurance committee, he introduced a bill that basically disallowed credit scoring to be used as part of the as part of the premium determining mechanism. Because of computer memory being so cheap these days, right. I mean all sorts of factors. There are as many as 200 factors that actually go in rating an insurance policy. And I do own an insurance agency, so Craig asked me to. We didn't often see eye to eye on issues, but we were truly good friends and are still friends. And he said, "Can you show me any reason why I should not, push this bill on through?" And I said, well, yeah, let's, so I got the, actuarial charts from some of the carriers that, and the bottom line was that 65 to 70% of people actually receive a reduction in the rates as a result of credit scoring. As far as the storms go, one storm is not going to cause your rates to go up 15 or 20%. But if a state does have a catastrophic loss, an insurance company, I mean, most people don't realize this, but the profit margin on homeowners policies, in fact, actually most companies actually barely make a profit on a homeowners, and they make a little bit on auto, and it subsidizes it. But the bottom line is that more than anything, what's been driving up the cost of homeowners insurance has to do with the repair costs because of inflation on building materials and so forth. And so
They say it's state regulated, so
I mean, the companies do have to submit their rate proposals to the state of Indiana, but the state does not set the rates for them. They either allow or disallow.
yeah, it's kind of a mother may I.
All right, thank you for the conversation. We can have this as a one-on-one.
Thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome.
I'm officially the bad guy now. I'm so sorry, but
Well, we've always known that, yes.
I know. I'll take it. I'll take it. Go ahead.
I got one thing to say to you, Mr. Borders.
Sure.
In regard to these people, there's lies, there's damn lies, and there's statistics. If you're going to believe us, you're going to believe your damn statistics.
Okay, we are going to remain respectful in every comment that we make. We will not be yelling. We will not be using. We also will not be using foul language either. Let's go on to the next comment. Thank you very much. All right, thank you, sir. Go ahead.
My name is Flo Evinger, and I want to talk about the CO2. We want to know what you feel about the laws, the Wabash Valley Resources Pilot Project, equal justice issues because they are targeting disadvantaged communities, small communities. Would you like to protect our disadvantaged areas from big out-of-state investors who pose a real risk of using our small areas to gain tax credits and then abandoning us a few years later, leaving us with the dumps to take care of? We've talked with other representatives who will support legislation to turn the power of back to the local governments. Will you work with us to help get back to the local governments instead of the state and Wabash Valley? And I want to know how much research you've all done on CO2, or are you just believing Wabash Valley's hype?
Well, I will answer the question. The bottom line is, no, it's like I mentioned earlier, I'm most certainly not an expert on this issue. Again, the hardest part of the General Assembly is having to catch up to speed on many issues in a very short amount of time. But this issue obviously has, greater impact, both potentially economically and both possibly physically as well to people's lives. And so it's one I think, we've all certainly, you've most certainly have our attention in a very strong way. And so that's on Tuesday when we go back in. I would say that those that are, basically the author of those bills will be getting a lot of questions from all four of us here today. So.
Yeah, I'll just say, you have my pledge. I am going to dive into the issue. I'm a couple of months into this. It was not the last session where the issue came up, but I do know, I think as Representative Paff said, this has been going on for years. And I have family, I think I've met with some folks, including some who've asked some questions personally, and I think I mentioned that my wonderful family goes up through Vermilion County, and I'm very sympathetic too about private property, the owners of private property, and the story about being a good steward of the land that one has inherited, goes through generations, very much touches me. So I will, as Bruce said, will look into. I personally will look into it, and I really appreciate you being here and hearing your thoughts on the issue.
All right, and that concludes our public question and answer session. Again, if you have any further questions, you can come after everything is concluded. This is what this is all about. This is great political discourse. We're going to take about 30 seconds per, or
I mean, feel free to pass if there's something you guys really wanted to say today that you didn't get a chance to talk about. Otherwise, I think we should let the public and the legislators have interaction. There's a lot of good follow-up. So legislators, if you got some last comment you need to throw out, great. Otherwise, we'll move it into.
I have one last comment.
Yes, Tanya, if you could.
Thank you. That's it.
Oh, great.
Rondrell, I do want to, if I may,
was
because
about
I
to say,
see
yeah,
my
go ahead.
friend, Dr. Hamilton from Indiana State. It's good to see you, friend. The importance of higher education. We are so blessed to be in a community and a region where we have pre-K to a PhD and opportunities, and yet not enough folks are taking advantage of those opportunities. So I just, leading up to the budget bill next session, workforce, and creating an opportunity for every single of our young citizens, all the way up to elderly citizens, every person an opportunity to better his or her life. So I just wanted to throw that out there as my conclusion, and thank you so much for being here.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
I appreciate people coming here, and I thank them. And it's good to see my good friend Leonard here from Fairview. Yes, from Clinton. And Sylvester and I lost a good friend here recently, and we've been talking, but he's, you just never know. You would, at my age, I take it one day at a time, and that's all we can do. And Bruce is not too far behind me.
That's right.
So,
that's right, absolutely.
But anyway, thanks again for coming, and be safe, stay healthy, and stay warm. Thank you.
One of the things I'll mention is this first session is always the toughest one as far as us getting together, because we have no idea what bills are going to get heard, what bills will even make it out of a committee. Again, not trying to be redundant, but because if it's a short session, and I forget which of our founding fathers made the statement, no man should sleep soundly when the legislature is in session, and there's some truth to that. But having said that, at the next meeting, a month from now, we will know at that point what bills actually got a hearing, scheduled in the committee, have made it through the House, will go to the Senate, will go from the Senate to the House. So I know today we were truly puzzled on a lot of them. We just, not familiar with them yet. But so a month from now, we will be much more familiar with, and I guarantee you we will all have done a lot of more study on the carbon sequestration issue as well.
Thank you very much for showing up. The next Cracker Barrel session will be Saturday, February the 10th. Feel free to meet with the legislators. Have a wonderful and safe day.
Let me put your name in
Yes, sir. My family has suffered.
How you doing? I get you.
Several cousins. My older brother died from opiates. It was crazy. You guys are so